So we'll try to get through things as quickly as possible. So let me just pull up the agenda here and we can get started. So good evening, everybody. Welcome to the monthly public meeting of ANC 4D. My name is Anthony Parati. I'm the commissioner for ANC 4D08, and it's my pleasure to serve as chair tonight. It's a little weird being back online since we've been meeting in person for the last few months. So just some quick reminders. If you're not speaking, please be sure to mute yourself. If you do want to speak and participate throughout the meeting, well, there will be various times for people to engage. Please use the raise hand function so that we can keep the conversation relatively orderly and keep ourselves on track tonight. So with that said, we'll get started. It looks like we've got some people here and we can get going. So Secretary Iman, would you like to take roll call?
Yeah.
All right.
I would be happy to. I had put on the agenda, if you think it's appropriate, Anthony, before roll call, to just introduce our new commissioner, since I will be calling his name.
Oh, for sure. Yes, I was planning on doing it, but I didn't realize that you were doing it before the roll call. So we'll start with that. Commissioner Amin, why don't you introduce yourself? We've got a new commissioner tonight to take the place for ANC 4D02, and it's our pleasure to welcome Commissioner Amin to the group. So, Commissioner, would you like to say something about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. It's been a pleasure getting to this position. I was sworn in just a few days ago. I live on Longfellow Street, 506. It's an apartment building. I've been living here for about a year now, but I've been a DC resident since 2016 now. So happy to be here, and let's get to work. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining our group. We are very happy to have you here. So, Commissioner George, would you like to take roll call?
Sure. When I call your name, please say present if you are present. Commissioner Pinckney.
Present.
Commissioner Amin.
President.
Commissioner Lucarelli.
Presente.
Commissioner Cornelius.
Present. I don't know how to say that in Greek, so I'm at a disadvantage to Commissioner Lucarelli.
Commissioner Moronsek.
Present.
Commissioner George is present. Commissioner Weigel.
Here.
And Commissioner Parati.
And I am present as well. So we have a quorum. We can proceed. First up, we have approval of the agenda. Commissioner George, anything special that we should know about tonight's agenda? I know that there was one proposed change.
There was one proposed change to the agenda. That's right, the good cause resolution for the Kennedy Street drug-free zone. And the other thing that I was gonna request, it's not exactly a change to the agenda, but rather a slight change to our normal rules. If it's okay, when we get to the Sherman Circle resolution, if the commission agrees, I'd like to just take the time to walk through the survey results that we had as well, on top of as part of the presentation time, which might take me over our normal allotted speaking time for items.
I think, Commissioner George, we have a fairly light agenda tonight, so I don't imagine that will cause any issues. Are there any objections for any of the commissioners?
No.
Hearing none, it sounds like that's not a problem.
Right. And then the other thing that we need to discuss is whether to add the Kennedy Street drug-free zone resolution to our agenda.
Commissioner Lucarelli, I know this is your agenda item. I don't know if you saw Commissioner Aman and George and I sent you a suggestion or a thought. I don't know if you still want to add it to the agenda tonight or if you want to think about it and wait. What would you like to do?
Yeah, if it would please the chair, I'd like to entertain a motion to add the Kennedy Street resolution as described by the secretary to tonight's agenda. Thank you.
So because for the members of the public, because this is a last minute addition, we need 2/3 of the commissioners to agree to do so at this late date. So commissioners, when I call your name, please just say aye if you agree to add this agenda. Again, you're not voting to actually approve the resolution. It's just to add it to the agenda for discussion tonight. So Commissioner Pinckney?
Okay, I just need clarification, please.
Yes, ma'am.
We just want to add it so we can talk about it and then vote in January? Or
Nope, we'll vote tonight.
you asking
We'll
to
vote tonight.
vote on it?
tonight.
Yeah, so Commissioner
But I
Lucarelli wants
haven't been,
to vote on it tonight, so this isn't the vote for the motion, it's just the vote to get it on the agenda.
to
so that
add
we
it on the
can talk
agenda,
about it.
right? However, okay, so at the last exec meeting or somewhere, you all discussed it?
We did
No,
not
that's why-
discuss it. It's a last minute addition.
Yeah,
It's a
Did I say
response to the
properly?
shooting that happened yesterday, 2 days ago.
a man lost his life the other day in 4003. It's one of a number of fatalities that's occurred in the district I represent. And so because of the circumstances and because of the well-documented history and pattern of behavior in and
Okay.
around that intersection, I want, I would like the council and,
Okay.
assign.
Okay.
Take
Okay,
care
I
of
don't want you to take up your time explaining it. I'm for it. I would just like for it to be read in its totality so everybody who's
Yeah.
on the open call can know what it says.
I
So,
will make sure that it's screen shared so that everyone can see it, whether you're, well, we're all joining virtually, so I'll make sure I
Yeah,
screen share.
but just read it so we know. Okay, I agree. Yes, add it to the agenda.
Commissioner Amin,
Sorry, is this a vote on the,
this is a vote. So the way our rules work are things need to be on the agenda a week beforehand, but commissioners can propose something to be added at the last minute for good cause, but it requires 2/3 of the commissioners to agree to add it to the agenda. So at this point, we're not voting to approve the resolution. It's just merely an approval to add it to the agenda to discuss it for tonight's meeting.
I think, I mean, I'm going to abstain on the vote to add it to the agenda. So yeah, if that's what you were asking.
That is what we're asking, yeah. Commissioner Lucarelli,
So moved.
Commissioner Cornelius,
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic,
Aye.
Commissioner George,
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel,
Aye.
and I'm also an aye, so we can add it to the agenda for tonight's discussion. Are there any other proposed changes or corrections to tonight's agenda?
No.
Hearing none, the agenda is,
I'm sorry.
that's
The
okay.
library is on the agenda, right?
It is on the agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hearing no corrections or objections, the agenda is approved thereby unanimous consent. Next up, we have minutes from the November meeting. Commissioner George.
Yep, I circulated the minutes from our last meeting in draft form. They're also up on our website. I don't have any changes that we need to discuss to the draft that was already circulated.
Are there
So
any
I move to approve the minutes as drafted.
Are there any edits or corrections or changes to the minutes from any of the commissioners? Hearing none, the minutes are thereby approved by unanimous consent. Next up, we have the treasurer's report. Commissioner Cornelius. You're muted, Commissioner.
Yes, sorry about that. Can I share the screen, Carson? Or Commissioner Lucarelli?
Yeah, give me one sec. Can you try to share? Like, is there a way to, so that I can, can you request it, or? I forget how it works.
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
All right, give me 1 second. Give me a sec. All right, I'm gonna make you the host, but then you have to make me the host after you're done. Okay. So you just click on the More tab next to my name under Participants, and then make host, okay? It's easy. Are you listening?
Yes.
Okay. All right, go, you're the host now, so share. You can go ahead and share.
Okay. Okay, so this evening, can you see my screen? So I apologize for the background noise of my daughter listening to whatever she's listening to, but This evening, we have to approve the ANC 4D quarterly financial report for Q4 of this fiscal year, and which will be submitted to the Office of ANCs by the end of this month. But as you can see, we've received some of our allocations or disbursements that we were anticipating. And so our balance forward at the beginning of the quarter was about $9,000. And then we received an additional almost $11,000. So the total funds available during the quarter was $19,614.88. We've issued one grant within this quarter, and also our communication spending was just over $2,000, and the grant was $2,000. So the total disbursements was $4,211.73. And our ending balance for the quarter is $15,403.15. So that's my report for our quarterly financial report for Q4.
Thank you, Treasurer Cornelius. Are there questions from any of the commissioners for the treasurer?
Yes.
Treasurer Pinckney.
The Blooms applicant that received the I'm sorry, I'm a little slow. The grant. He submitted the receipts and everything. Doesn't it have to go on here so that we can actually get back the money we gave for our next installment?
Well, we have to close out the receipts that we received, but that information isn't on our quarterly financial report.
Oh, okay, so it wasn't due. Okay. Okay, so you're gonna close it out in January next year?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right.
Questions from other commissioners?
Thank you. What is this? Chicken salad? Oh, no, we're not.
Go on mute, Joy. Go on mute.
Oh, sorry.
Questions from anyone in the public? And if you can, again, use the raise hand function. It makes it easier for me to see who wants to speak, please. Okay, hearing none, we have to vote on the quarterly report, and we'll do that at the end of the meeting. So if there are no other questions, we'll move on. Anything else, Treasurer Cornelius, for your report for the month?
I know that we have discussed at prior meetings, people have been interested in knowing more about grant applications and how to apply, etc. I know as a commission, we're trying to make that process not only more transparent, but more informative for the community. So that's our goal, early in the next, early in 2024.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next up, we have comments from city officials. First, we'll start with Ms. Barbara Rogers, if she's here tonight. Oh, Commissioner George?
Do we have to take a vote to approve the QFR?
We do. I was going to do it at the end of the meeting, but if you want...
I always forget our news. Yeah, perfect.
Quite all right. Next up, we've got Ms. Barbara Rogers from the council member's office. Ms. Rogers, are you here this evening? I don't see her online, but if she joins, she can chime in later. So we'll turn it over to Mr. Derek Johnson from the mayor's office.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, perfect. I have a few updates to provide. I also want to say welcome to the newest commissioner in 4D02. Likewise, just to begin, I wanted to raise the issue that was brought up by Commissioner Lucarelli last month, and that was with regard to a email chain thread from, I believe, 2022 around the Sherman Street, Georgia Avenue with regard to existing street lamps. And so I was able to find a little bit of information, and that was mainly that the people working on the project at that time no longer work in those positions anymore. And so it kind of was stalled there. However, as you all may be aware, there is an ongoing street lamp conversion project happening. And so as part of that project, the city is planning to revamp and overview what existing light structures we have, fixing foundations, poles, as well as the lighting conversion. And so that may go to address some of these concerns. While we don't know 100% that it will, what I will raise is that this will give us a good opportunity to bring the issue back up. And so I welcome the opportunity to work with you, Commissioner Lucarelli, to revive this issue and see how we can get some light more projected out to this area, which also speaks to, you know, some of the crime in the area, which I'm sure your resolution will speak to a little later.
So Derek, thank you for those remarks. Can you clarify for me and the public which intersection we're talking about? The audio was dark.
I believe there's the paperwork that you had included on the email chain speaks about it's Georgia Avenue, but going Hamilton 9th, between 9th and Georgia, Hamilton up and down.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was
Yes.
a long. Yeah. Golly,
Yes.
dude. Yeah. No. I mean, I'm getting messages routinely about this intersection. Whenever I see an email come in my inbox or a phone message that says Georgia and Hamilton, I know exactly what it's talking about. Let me just say, and you know, I'll talk about this later, Commissioner comments, but I think that we need to have DDOT here on a quarterly basis for a number of reasons. You know, Georgia Avenue is it's the most bus trafficked corridor in the district. It carries around 20,000 people a day on the bus. It should be more, but we're getting there. And there's a number of projects along this street that are in various phases of design, development, and implementation, but also because there's been 2 traffic fatalities, at least in the district that I represent, in 4D03 this year alone. And so I'll talk about more of that later, but yeah, I mean, this intersection is just, it feels like the city has forgotten about us. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. And I know that as a fellow local government employee across the river, I know that a lot of things become a balancing act, but you know, we need, the wheel has been squeaking for a long time now. And at this point, you know, we thought that there would have been some grease applied, so to speak. And so we need everyone to be on board here. I mean, because it is a major issue in 4D where we have instances where people do the things that they're doing at Kennedy and or Georgia and Hamilton, just like the folks that do what they do at Kennedy and Georgia. And there are repeated incidents of gun violence that are well documented. And so one of the solutions, or one of the thoughts that I had, is that, you know, at least at night, we could provide more street lighting in this area to allow some of the more clandestine behavior to be discouraged. Because if you literally have a spotlight on you, it's not desirable. So it's not going to be a silver bullet. I don't know what is, but thank you.
No, thank you for that. And likewise, I want to revive another issue that we spoke about with regard to public safety. Given all of the incidents that happened since the summer with KDY, the street crew being indicted with RICO charges, we also saw last week that the USAO's office and the Metropolitan Police Chief announced a string of arrests of about 10 persons who were arrested on RICO charges for carjackings. And so what I said last month was that sometimes we don't see the day-to-day work that goes into the investigations, but those wheels are still moving sometimes. And this is just one additional effort that we saw by the USAO office in collaboration with MPD to tamp down what is a growing issue across the city and the nation with carjackings. And so while most of these individuals were about 17 to 18 years old, what we know is that City Council voted for legislation previous years that allows for those individuals to not receive what are called mandatory minimums. And so some of these charges that were pursued include aggravated charges with being armed while carjacking. And so some of these cases would have been mandatory minimums with 15-year sentences. Now, I'm not advocating for this, but what that does allow for is for some of these people to go under the radar and get the charges reduced and be back on the street and committing the same crimes. And so what we know is the mayor has a commitment to public safety writ large and accountability for parents. And another way that we see her pushing for that accountability and with regard to public safety is the announcement of the Real-Time Crime Center, which is a new dedicated space that's going to be staffed 24/7 with local, regional, and federal law enforcement agencies to monitor and respond to criminal activity in real time. And so that paired with what is the Act Now legislation, which is before council, that would enable MPD to enforce for 120 hours, 5 days, a drug-free zone, which council has before them and have the ability to vote yes on that legislation to enact a trigger for the city to, as MPD, to hold accountable those individuals who are conducting illicit activities. And so as part of that overall plan, the mayor continues to seek to pursue better policies around public safety. I was just with the mayor on Thursday of last week, and we were at the 4D mini commission on aging. The 4D CAC Citizens Advisory Council, and she stated, and the deputy mayor stated that in January there's going to be a rollout of a few different policies that we're looking at to help bridge the gap. So there's more to come. I do understand the frustration. I do understand the need for the ANC to make vocal their concerns with resolutions. So I'll stop there, but I did want to just let you know that I am here with you all advocating on behalf of the community, letting the mayor know what I hear in real time. And so I welcome any questions that you all may have, and look forward to hearing back your thoughts or anything you may have to take back to the mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Cornelius.
Good evening, Derek. It's always a pleasure. Enjoy your green. Happy holidays. I have a couple of questions. One is, Commissioner Lucarelli just mentioned the lack of lighting, in this area as a basic, I would say basic traffic, not only traffic, but also public safety thing that we could do in pretty short order, in my opinion. I think that's consistent with, in other areas of the city, even in downtown around the monuments. I was just there over the weekend with Jennifer, and and we were walking, towards a couple of the monuments on this little holiday field trip thing, and my friend who was with us said, why is it so dark here? Anything could happen. So I feel like it's a consistent issue throughout the city, not only in our, in 4D or in Ward 4 in general. So is there sort of a plan of short-term, medium-term, long-term solutions when it comes to public safety? And also, the second part of that, and then I have a totally unrelated question, but the second part of that is, it does seem as though certain members of the council and the mayor don't necessarily see eye to eye when it comes to, or there's a perception when it comes to crime prevention, et cetera. They ran on, certain agendas that may have not aligned with the mayor at the, from the beginning, but I think most of them are getting a wake-up call at this point. So is there a plan, one, for short, medium, long-term goals when it comes to crime prevention in this city? And two, is there a plan of action or collaboration that the mayor has with the council? Because obviously there is this disconnect on various issues. And then my second question will come after your answer.
Okay, so for the lighting issue, what I just dropped into the chat is a link where you can get real-time information from I believe it is DDOT as regarding design and construction phase and the progress/timeline for each ANC. So there's a map. You can go particularly, I've just searched for 4D, and what it does is it lets you know exactly how many lights are being worked on, how many we have left to repair, and what that timeline looks like, and then a little bit of other information there as well in terms of what the overall timeline looks like. So that's for the lighting aspect around the city. So it's a citywide thing, and they're moving pretty quickly, but I think there's somewhere near like, what was it, 88,000 street lights to be repaired. So it'll take some time, but they're moving on the process, and you can review that in real time here. Now, with regard to the plan for public safety, long-term, medium-term goals, I do see that the mayor is outlining a few stages of what she sees as gaps that need to be filled. And likely what that means is that we don't have the full plan, but as we hear back more from the community, which is why we welcomed and we had a really good turnout for people to come and speak to council and give testimony. Up until December 13th, we were taking testimony. So we're looking at what that testimony says and trying to figure out what that better means for the community and how we want to implement. And like I did say, I see the 4D CAC chair here as well, Ms. Martin. But when we were meeting last week, the deputy mayor did say that there's a future rollout of legislation policy that they do plan. So there's more to come, I do know. And so as the mayor hears back from the community, she's trying to better understand and synthesize that information to create policies that are wide-reaching. We've seen the enactment of the real-time call center and the legislation act now that would help bridge some of those gaps. So yes, on that. And so I welcome what you said was your second question.
Oh, my second question, very quickly, is, we heard last week with the rollout of the owner of the Capitals and the Wizards planning a move, to Alexandria. And I was just wondering, I'm from Massachusetts, so I'm a diehard, Boston sports fan. And if this ever happened in Boston, which it would never, because, that's basically one of the tenets of being a Massachusetts resident. But is there a way that we can convince him to retract his decision or change his decision? Because I feel like sports is something that really unifies the city, regardless of class or race or et cetera. And did someone drop the ball, or what was the sort of catalyst or impetus to this?
So I think that the mayor definitely concurs with you that this is a sports city, and it's only right that the Wizards and the Caps stay here in DC. Now, with Monumental specifically, they were looking for some benefits to come to them in regards to numbers. And so what the good thing is that the council and the mayor are in complete unanimous support with one another around this. And what we've offered is $500 million toward $500 million towards 3 years that could start. And this money is for capital expenditure, so it's not coming out of any other pots. So these monies are monies that they've been willing to allocate. And up until now, the negotiations, while they've been under the wraps for months, it's been something that the mayor has been discussing and planning and in negotiations with since the summer. And so while we definitely want them to stay here, their mayor is still committed, DC Council is still committed to actually keeping them here in the city. And what that means is further negotiations. So we're still at the table with them. We're going to keep the offer open and let them know that if it doesn't work out, we'll continue to have the conversations with them.
Okay, thank you, Derek.
Oh, no problem.
Ms. Martin, I have a question, but I'm going to hold my question because I have a hunch that yours is related to this crime issue. So I'm going to turn the floor over to you.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much, ANC 4D commissioners, for allowing me to speak this evening. I want to apologize for being late. I also want to apologize in case I have to go. My husband's actually at the hospital and I'm on my way back to Washington Hospital Center, so I want to apologize in advance. Two things real quickly. I do want to share with you all that moving forward, forgive me, the 4th District Citizens Advisory Council did have our monthly meeting on the 18th of December. I apologize if you all did not get the information. However, everything is listed on our website. I will drop that in the link in the chat for you so you can have our website for up-to-date information. Also, I do want to share with you that at our 4th District Citizens Advisory Council meeting this month, we did have a forum on public safety where the mayor was there. Deputy Mayor Lindsay Appiah for Public Safety was present. We also had the director of OUC 911 was present. The chief of fire and EMS was present. Forgive me, I'm trying to remember everyone was there. But at the end of the day, it was a significant conversation. Chief of Police Pamela Smith was there. It was a significant conversation on public safety. We were able to look at all the listservs that we have access to. I haven't actually been allowed to join many listservs, but the listservs that we do have access to, we've gathered information and questions from those listservs. We filtered them with Chief Pamela Smith, who was also there, and also Assistant Chief Morgan Kane was present, and also Commander Nikki Lavenhouse was present. We have filtered those looking for the key crime concerns in communities. We've reached out to individuals who have had those concerns in partnership with MPD 4th District. Additionally, we welcome the questions from the communities in the room to be able to filter those answers and also be able to provide feedback. We did have the Director of Crime Victim Services there, and also the Director of Department of Public Parks and Recreation, please forgive me, was present at the meeting as well. In reference to the big plan, I believe Commissioner Cece mentioned the question about what is the big plan. I do know that on the 7th of December, Chief of Police Pamela Smith had an inaugural advisory council with faith-based leaders in the district. During that meeting, she did provide her strategic intent or her strategic plan on crime safety in the city. I've been looking for that particular thing since you all have been talking. Please forgive me. I've been looking for that. And if you would give me some time, I can email it to the team, email it to the commissioners at a later point. But it's out there. And Chief of Police Pamela Smith does have a very comprehensive strategic plan that she's working for to fight the crime in the city. I believe it was rolled out in August of September of this year, but she's taking pieces of that and working with different advisory councils at the same time, and also different community members at the same time. She would love to come to all of the ANC meetings and all of the neighborhood meetings. But what I'm going to ask as your chairperson for public safety on the Citizens Advisory Council is that I'm going to ask if you would please help us and partner with us. Maybe if one person or two people from your neighborhoods could join us as we move forward to partner and collaborate, communicate, and coordinate public safety initiatives on what we as residents of Ward 4 and the 4th District would like to see, so that we can gather those things together to inform Chief of Police Pamela Smith. I will be meeting monthly with her and the rest of the Citizens Advisory Council chairs, and we come to the table monthly to meet with her on things that might be a broader scope for the whole city. I know Commissioner CC just mentioned the whole city. One of the things that we also asked, that I also asked one-on-one with Director McGaffin, I'm so sorry, OUC Director McGaffin, is that if she could please have a liaison for each ward. I don't know if they have the bandwidth to do that right now, but we're offering up as Citizens Advisory Councils across the city, because 2D and 1D was also present at our meeting on Monday. What we're offering to those components or those agencies is that utilize the volunteers that they have. And I'm very honored to see that you all at 4D, ANC 4D, have an amazing public safety group. I would love to join in on some of your meetings if I can. I'm so thankful that you all have that component within your ANC group. A lot of the ANCs hopefully will, maybe be able to mirror you or what you're doing. But one of the things I think is going to be key for us is if we collaborate and communicate on what's going on across the city, there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. When something might be working in 7th District or 3rd District, we can also do that here in 4th District. For example, Commander Butler over in 3rd District, who used to be in 4D also, he's created a cops and clergy group over there. And we have about 50 clergy here in 4th District that we're creating that here in 4th District as well. And as an Air Force veteran myself, I'm also creating a United States military veterans arm to our public safety group that will be able to reach out to veterans in their cares and concerns for public safety. We also have a lot of displaced and unhoused residents in our 4th District areas, and our businesses are suffering well with public safety concerns. Some of the businesses are sharing that they have a lot of theft, retail theft, and students and children are coming in to steal things. And most of the things that they're stealing is food. So one of the things I was on a phone conversation today about was talking about how can we reach out during this time to make sure we're getting maybe lunches or maybe weekend and afternoon or aftercare programs, getting meals to students and children so that they're not doing the thefts in the stores, so that we can keep our stores here in 4D. So I know I've said a lot. I'm going to be quiet. If anyone has any questions for me, I want to apologize for not being on camera and just apologize for rushing through this. But please, if you have any questions for me, I'm going to try to drop my information in the chat if I haven't done that. But I welcome any questions. If I don't know the answer, I definitely will capture your concerns and share them back with the appropriate personnel. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, thank you, Ms. Martin. We have 3 questions from commissioners. In the interest of time, if I could ask you to keep your questions relatively succinct so we can move along. So Commissioner Lucarelli, we'll go to you first quickly.
Yeah, so thank you. Someone needs to mute themselves. There's a lot of background noise. This question goes back to Derek. What is the mayor's plan, or that you're aware of, for how they're going to notify neighborhoods and, SMDs at the micro level about, some of the things that they want, is their intent of, these crime safety initiatives? Because I think it would be for all parties to have the ANC available so that, we can reiterate from a hyper local perspective some of the nuances of the issues that are going on. And let me just say, more generally speaking, I didn't just fall off the turnip truck. If you live near these areas where there's documented gun violence and intimidation and other crimes of vice, things that go on, these are areas where folks are abusing and taking advantage of the fact that we have a privilege here in the district, which is that, there are no loitering laws, and there shouldn't be, but folks are finding a loophole around that to do these illicit things that operate within a black market. And we know that black markets are only enforceable through violence and intimidation. And so we need to find a way using the tools within the toolbox, whether it's, and that's going to involve some sort of legal analysis, I imagine, to work within the
Commissioner
confines.
Lucarelli, I don't mean to interrupt, but maybe you could just get to the point so we
So-
can just move on.
So let's figure out a way to, see where these things are happening, use data to determine, next steps, and just keep us in the loop with anything that you have going on. Especially within 4D, because it'd be great to engage the public. Thank you.
Yes, I'll just say briefly, with regard to the rollout, it's usually the mayor makes a press release, does a press conference, and then what it looks like is our community constituent services branch does the follow-up through ANC meetings to apprise the public, but also that open period for testimony is how we get public feedback. But what I'll say also is that I will steadfastly commit to following up on this issue, as I've tonight even raised it for our chief of staff with regard to this resolution and the desire to be more innovative in how we're thinking. So I will be sure to follow up as I hear more and keep you abreast.
Briefly, Commissioner Pinckney, and then briefly, Commissioner Amin.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. I'm gonna try to talk a little bit. I think moving from today forward, we all understand that the mayor and the councilwoman have their roles in working in their positions. The mayor is being mayoral, councilwoman member is being over Ward 4. I believe that both of them have at heart what's best for the city. I think if we forget about what the he says, she says is about whether they get along, don't get along, agree or don't agree, that's part of politics, and that's part of becoming the best we can be. So moving forward, before we preface anything about, oh, this one doesn't like that one, I think we should give that a rest, because there are always times on the floor for people to disagree without being disagreeable. So, and in that light, going forward with the library, going forward with the issues about safety, going forward with all these things, I, for one, and I'm sure everyone around our table know that the mayor and the councilwoman both are going to do what's a part of their own agendas, but I believe they have the best interest of the people at heart. And our job is to help them to remember what's on the hearts and minds of our neighbors, because we are the ones who choose them. Okay. And then that'll make, I know, my job a little bit easier. And then
Thank
we
you.
don't get into all of that. Okay. And thank everybody for being so patient while I've been away. Bye.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Amin, your question briefly? Oh, you're muted, sir.
Yeah, sorry. Hi. If you could actually refer to me as Abel, and my name is my grandfather's name. I'm not just saying that as just to seem young. It's just a naming convention. If you must, Commissioner Abel is fine, or just Abel.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Bell's fine with us.
yeah. Derek, a quick question. One thing is, there is in my SMB on 3rd Street is where the E3 turns left coming down Missouri. And there's usually there's a stop sign, there's a bus stop right in front of, it's on 3rd and Kennedy. There's a bus stop there. Oftentimes what happens, there's people parked right in front of it and the bus gets blocked. And it's an issue I want to pursue a little bit and see if we can get some parking enforcement on that, because there's not supposed to be any cars parked there at any time. It's a bus stop, but it blocks the bus, and the bus blocks traffic on Missouri Avenue and creates a lot of safety issues. So I wanted to talk about that some other time and then just to also talk a little bit about this. We're going to be talking about this later on today, but I do want to point out that the executive has stopped from enforcing the SNAP additional SNAP benefits that that the council members had passed. I just want to point out, this was pointed out earlier by another speaker, that oftentimes what people are stealing is food, and that SNAP benefits have been shown to reduce crime, reduce recidivism, extend the life expectancy of people, and generally improve public safety. So I find it strange that the mayor has taken away this benefit that actually improves public safety. So I want to just point out that contradiction and hope that you will do something about that and moving forward, and that you will relay our disappointment, which we will be speaking hopefully as a commission on later on today.
Thank you, Commissioner Bell. And Mr. Johnson, can I actually put you on the spot about that for a second and ask you a question? And you may not have the answer to it and totally understand. But as Commissioner Bell, we have a resolution tonight to weigh in on the mayor's decision to reallocate the funding that had been dedicated to SNAP. Can you just help us understand a little bit about what the mayor's position is on this and why, if you can, why she's proposed to move the money that would have been spent towards SNAP towards something else, just so we can understand that perspective?
Yes, so from my understanding, it's almost robbing Peter to pay Paul, because this money that is being allocated is also then being suggested to use for purposes that meet other major funding obligations as well. And while monies were allocated to go to an increase, no one is being cut or decrease. It's largely because the district has major funding obligations to include Metro and union contracts. And so while some of these DHS administered programs, many of them are non-discretionary, they're ceasing funding could have a major impact on basic needs for households and for housing, shelter, and essential supports for our lowest income residents as well. So the money that is the 40 million being proposed, that was allocated, is being proposed to be used towards the assistance of some of these same people, just in a different form.
Thank you, sir. Okay, thank you, Mr. Johnson. We appreciate your Commissioner Pinckney, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you had another question.
I apologize. This is a serious situation.
And that's my basic understanding. I could get more information and hello.
Oh, he's timing out.
Oh, are you talking, Commissioner Pinckney? Well, I would just also say that the administration has always prioritized financial assistance for low-income residents, and the reality is that there's going to be an alternative federal funding to increase nutrition assistance available to the district through its summer EBT program, and that's going to be narrowly tailored to families. So this isn't the last bite at the apple. It's just the emergent need for some of these operational spending for major funding obligations that already exist as well.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Commissioner Pinckney.
Well, I'm going to piggyback on that because I'm in a state-of-the-art, brand new senior building on Kennedy Street. We're having problems with the developers who are also, i.e. the owners of the management property. We've got rats in the apartment building. I have had the rat patrol, all 3 different Department of Buildings to come there. There's no accountability. We are suffering in there. That's partly why I have double pneumonia, because we just can't breathe. The landlords and the people she puts in the city to say, yeah, take care of her people. We are senior citizens, and we are over there now at the behest of what is becoming a slumlord. Now, these are the people, and this is a project that she lorded over, and 2 years out the gate, she hasn't been there to come back to speak to us, to find out anything. Okay. And yes, I benefit from SNAP, but I'm not one of the people who would get any advantage because I'm not a family. See, this is smoke and mirrors. But if she's moving the money around, we also need some accountability to the people that she's having to come into the city and be a part of the world for people who need assistance, because it's like you can't pour into one and then leave it and pull it out and pour into something else that you've already given billions of dollars to. This is not okay. So I want you to put that on the record and find out how we can get the mayor's help on accountability for the people she chose to come in here to put these developments up and to manage them.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Weigel, I'm guessing your comment is related to this. Would it be all right if we waited until we were voting on the motion to discuss it so that we could keep the agenda moving for now?
Mine is just, yeah, just a really quick math observation.
Go for it, sir.
Derek earlier said that the Monumental Sports Network was promised $500 million to stay in the city. However, we're struggling to provide $40 million of assistance for SNAP.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cornelius, is it okay if you connect with Derek offline so that we can
Absurd.
keep the
Absolutely absurd.
meeting moving?
Yes, that's fine. I'll just wait until my, commissioner comments, sorry.
Thank you. All right. Next up, we have committee updates. First, we've got the library task force. Commissioner Pinckney, any updates this month?
The updates that were talked about, I think, were in the exec meeting, right? The only update I have, did you all talk about it at the meeting? No. Okay, okay. We sent the letter and the resolution requesting that an RFP be put out so that 1, 2, 5 people who have the ability to step in and provide the space, the everything that's needed for a library. We sent that up to the deputy mayors, all the persons who are involved in actually putting down the $5 million in order to acquire the space and move forward. That's what we did so far. Now, next, once I get out of this situation, we will be asking people to sign the petition, which will go ahead and be attached to another copy of what the neighbors, the residents in the neighborhood want and how we can benefit from having a public library there on Kennedy Street or close by. If you'd like to participate and help us with any part of this, I would be love to have your name and number. You can put it in the chat. Hopefully somebody will get it to me. You can just email it to me. And did I say everything, Mr. Chair? I can't cough. I can't cough no more.
I think you covered the basics, Commissioner Pinckney, but if you have other stuff to add, just let us know.
Yeah, I can't do it right now, but I just wanted to be on here because I didn't want to miss saying happy holidays to everyone. And thank you so much for your caring calls and all. And I'm still here. Okay.
We're glad that you're able
You
to join us.
logging off now, Joy?
No, I'm going to keep listening.
Okay.
We're glad that you're able to join us, Commissioner Pinckney. Next up, we have an update from the Public Safety Task Force. This will be very brief. So we had another meeting about a week or so ago. Each of the subcommittees is working on different recommendations. People have some great ideas. We're working to put them in a final report, which we plan to present to the ANC Commission in January. So we should finish up some preliminary recommendations by the end of the year. As I think I mentioned, they cover everything from recommendations to MPD on some spots in the neighborhood that could use some more help, to some suggestions for creating community in the neighborhood, thinking about how to engage different people in the neighborhood to create a sort of safer space for everybody. So there's a wide variety of recommendations, and I look forward to sharing those with everybody in January. Next up, we have commissioner announcements. Commissioner Pinckney, it looks like you had listed 3 announcements that you wanted to make about annual objections, a communication plan, and volunteer signups. Are those still things that you want to talk about tonight?
Okay, give me the first one.
Annual objectives, sorry, not objections.
Oh, yes, annual objectives for the library committee. We can work on that. I need to really have a dedicated core group. I'm thinking 5 to 7. It's a task force. It's not a committee. And it can be persons from 4D or 4B, whomever, because the library is going to impact many different SMDs across. Okay. So we're going to come up with a whole list of things to do and maybe present them in January, so that we can move forward with anticipation of this RFP, or, moving forward with actually solidifying where the library is going to be. Okay, that was one thing.
Second thing you have is a communication plan.
Yeah, communication plan, dissemination plan. I'm still working on. I talked to the secretary at one of our meetings about doing the list server, and then that way we can disseminate information back and forth, or at least disseminate out where we are, because there have been more neighbors wanting to know more about the library, not really able to commit to a time, but they just want to know what's going on. So one of the biggest things is to communicate and get as much of the information out as widely as possible. So we're going to depend on all of our commissioners to, continue to talk it up, everybody everywhere, to share what's going on. And part of that is we have to, as a committee or as a task force, come up with how we're going to disseminate the information in a succinct way.
And the third thing you had was volunteer signups.
Yeah, that's because I was supposed to be there. But I'll take volunteer signups at any time. I'll speak to you, Mr. Chair, more, and we can come up with what might work best for us and any other commissioner, and we can come up with that. But for now, I'll take anybody. You can call me, write me, courier pigeon me, whatever you can do.
That sounds great, Commissioner.
Look, I just took my pain medicine. Don't take it out on me.
Not at
Okay.
all. Thank you we appreciate you joining us tonight. So that sounds great. Thank you, Commissioner Pinckney.
Okay, all right.
Announcements from other commissioners. I see Commissioner Corniotis.
A couple of things. My predecessor, Mr. Israel, just asked in the chat, what's the difference between a task force and a committee? Aren't they essentially the same? Do you want to take that, Chair? And then I'll make another couple of announcements.
Yeah, I suppose the answer to that question is that the bylaws are fairly prescriptive about if the commission votes to create a committee. There are certain fairly strict parameters on what that has to look like, who has to be a member. There are no provision in the bylaws about what a task force could look like, and so it gives additional flexibility to the commission if a group of neighbors want to work on a particular project. So I guess the answer is that there's more flexibility, but a task force also has less weight than a formal committee would have. So that's essentially the difference between them. So Commissioner Corniotis?
Then it seems like Barbara Rogers from from the council member's office is now on. So let's make sure she has her opportunity. And Mr. Israel's follow-up question, will all task force meetings be publicized and open to the public?
Yes, I mean, certainly for the public safety task force, I'll let Commissioner Pinckney speak about the library's work. For us, I would encourage anyone in the community to contact me and join us and participate in our meetings and conversations. And so the more, the better. So So at least that's for the Public Safety Task Force that we put together. To answer to specifically about that one, Commissioner, or sorry, former Commissioner Israel, we may end up forming a committee at some point with that, which again would have sort of a more formal structure and greater weight, but that may be a recommendation that comes out of the task force. But for right now, this is essentially sort of a brainstorming opportunity for the neighborhood. So a little less formal, but also having a little less weight as well. Commissioner Cornelius?
Okay, thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say, I wish everyone on this call and my constituents, our constituents, a very happy and healthy holiday season. It's been being a commissioner in this community has been very rewarding, and I feel very blessed to be part of our team. And I just want to thank specifically the Lorenzo Allen Park Committee for consistently decorating the park for every holiday. They work really hard. It's all voluntary, and we really appreciate you. And here's to making 2024 an even better, more productive year for our commission and drafting more and more resolutions.
Thank you, Commissioner. Announcement from Commissioner Mrenzek.
Yes, hello, everybody. Let me start the camera here. Just a couple of quick things. First off is that, I apologize for the background noise. First off is that the leaf collection has been moving through our neighborhood over here next to Barnard and 4D. So just keep an eye out to make sure that it's going through. I know they had the roads blocked off a couple of blocks just south of me to get through. So if you're finding that you've been missed in the sweep or whatever, make sure you call 311 and get that taken care of. The second thing is that with the winter months, there is, I just want to remind everybody about the winter utility disconnection moratorium. So when the weather is forecasted to be below a certain temperature, the utility companies are not allowed to disconnect you for payment of services. So if you're having any issues about that, you can call the Office of the People's Counsel. I'll drop the contact information in there. Full disclosure, I work for that office, so I always have that in mind. That's it for me.
Thank you, Commissioner. Announcement from Commissioner Lucarelli.
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I've noticed a lot of automated traffic control devices. That's planner speak for speed cameras and red light cameras. And so that had me thinking that, that coupled with the fact that, 2 people lost their life using Georgia Avenue this year, that something I'd like us to entertain for the year coming up is at a minimum quarterly updates from DDOT. I think it's well known that Georgia Avenue is a dangerous street. And, we've seen that with the rising traffic fatalities across the district and, within the corridor I represent. And so I think it would behoove that agency to do that also because, we have a bus lane priority project that is underway and just for them to sort of let us know because the breadcrumb trail was very clear. People both heretofore and within this body have been clamoring to DDOT for a long time about how unsafe and uncomfortable it is to use that facility that they own and maintain. And so I think with the synergy of both good and bad things in the pipeline, we should hear from them. So I'm not sure what that will take. And if we need to talk about this, at a separate meeting, I'm happy to do so, whether it's internal or executive, but it's just a thought I've had as we close up this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other Commissioner announcements? While we're doing announcements then, Ms. Rogers, if you're available, if you want to briefly give us any updates that you might have.
I am here. Happy holidays. Can you all hear me?
We can. Happy holidays to you too, and thank you for joining us.
Sure. I am sorry I am late. The council had an event today, so I had to step out in order to come and just give a few updates. But again, I want to say I'm happy to hear Commissioner Pinckney's voice, and we, of course, are wishing you a speedy recovery, and to please let us know if it's anything that we can do for you. So just a few updates. It is that time of year again. We are starting our Listen as We Climb. Will be in January. The council member has done this regularly since 2020. She will be holding community meetings in almost every neighborhood. We're combining some neighborhoods in Ward 4 to hear from neighbors and gather community input to shape our work on legislation, oversight, and the DC budget. We are going to the commissioners, you will be getting an email from me this week. We are asking for your support to attend these meetings, also to gather information from your residents about what they want to see in the budget. So you'll be getting an email from me this week. In the past, the feedback we received at Listen as We Climb meeting from neighbors and ANC commissioners has led to tangible legislation and budget investments on issues like abandoned vehicles, clean corridors, small business support, conflict resolution, and many others. And so here are some tentative dates. So Thursday, January 18th, at 6 p.m., we're going to hold a Ward 4 wide meeting that is focusing on community public safety, which is something that is on the minds of our office as well as many residents. On Tuesday, January 23rd, we'll do a Listen as We Climb for Petworth and Brightwood Park. And then on Wednesday, February the 7th, as we did last year, for those that cannot come out, we will be doing a virtual Listen as We Climb meeting. Let's see, just a few legislative updates. Councilmember Louis George passed the Work Order Integrity Act on its first vote, which is a bill that will improve communication between schools and DGS, as well as improve how repairs are made in our school system. Councilmember Louis George passed the Minimum Wage Clarification Act, which is a bill that would eliminate a loophole in DC's minimum wage law that has allowed employers to not pay their workers a living wage by rotating them out to different work sites in and out of DC. And we want you to mark your calendars for our hearing on Conflict Resolution Education Act to teach conflict resolution at all of our DC schools. That will be on Thursday, January the 11th, and everyone is encouraged to testify. Council member feels that teaching conflict resolution can instill lifelong skills that help students overcome conflict, improve student behavior, build positive and lasting relationships, and make our schools and our communities safer. So I can add the link in the chat, or you can call our office to get information on how you can testify or send in written comments. SNAP. I think we've all heard about the SNAP benefits. More than 140,000 DC residents. That means 1 out of every 5 DC residents depend on SNAP food assistance to sustain themselves and their families. Families on SNAP have been struggling this year as Congress reduced the benefits, and with food prices being so high, it is important that we provide an increase to our SNAP recipients. Many residents are down to just $30 in benefits for the entire month. Earlier this year, the council passed and fully funded $40 million increase in SNAP benefits for DC families to ensure no family goes hungry in our city. But earlier this month, news broke that the mayor would not implement the SNAP expansion despite it being fully funded, and would instead ignore the law. Councilmember Lewis George is deeply alarmed about the impact this will have on our children, families in need, and our senior citizens in our communities. So if you want to see SNAP benefits increased for families in need, we will need you to speak out and ensure the mayor hears you. And I do have a link there I can put in the chat as well. Just a few more updates here. The DC school lottery, applications for the DC school lottery are now open for the next school year. Families have until February 1st to apply for high school and March 1st for pre-K 3 through the 8th grade. Please, we want you to strongly consider our amazing Ward 4 schools. And so please apply early. ERAP, Emergency Rental Assistance Program. Applicants, the application process will open January 1st. Because of limited funding, DHCD is only accepting 3,500 applications. So please prepare to apply early. And I'm asking commissioners, if you know of a senior that may need assistance in applying, please reach out to our office. I am going to attempt to set up to go to the rec centers and to also go to Hattie Homes to assist some of our seniors that may need to apply for ERAP. 24 bus hour service has started. The buses in Ward 4 would be the 52, S2, 70, and the 80. And I think someone recently mentioned about traffic camera enforcement of the bus zones. In November, DDOT started issuing tickets to drivers who are illegally parked, stopped, or idling in the area in front of a bus. The buses have cameras and they will take a picture of your tag. So please be mindful of that. And finally, if you don't get our newsletter that comes out every Friday afternoon, please sign up at ward4news.com. Thank you all so much. And again, happy holidays to all the commissioners and to all the residents that are listening today.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rogers. We appreciate you. Questions from commissioners. Commissioner Lucarelli.
Yes, give me 1 second. Yeah, Ms. Rogers, thank you for joining the call. It's always a pleasure to see and hear from you. 4 things, but I'm going to be hyper brief. Bus stop cameras, excellent. Stay out of the bus lane. So thank you for being a champion of that. I wanted to say that it's absolutely absurd that there's $500 million to keep a stadium here and not SNAP benefits. I'd be willing to wager that a number of people who work at the stadium probably have or currently use SNAP in some form or fashion. And so, I mean, food, shelter, water, these are all basic human rights. And so under no circumstances should we be taking money away from that. I mean, it's for God's sakes. Okay. The final thing, and it was actually 3, and, you know, I'm not trying to be critical here, but, you know, with all due respect to you and the Honorable Councilwoman, what is the plan for, you know, for public safety? I know that it is a very nebulous topic, but there have been so many walkthroughs in this community. The mayor was out here. She said it was filthy. You know, I've seen the police captain walking up and down here. Police Chief Smith. I've seen Commander Lavenhouse and so forth, and those that preceded her. what is the plan though? I mean, people in this community are literally dying for a plan. I, I, I see the benefit of community engagement because that's a principal tenet of what I do as an urban planner. But I'm just confused here. Like at some point we have to identify the issue. We have to, we need to work on recommendations, and then we need to figure out what it takes to implement those things. And I'm just not seeing any of that. And, here we are a year into this term. It's kind of, it's baffling to me. Like I'm literally bewildered at why there isn't some sort of plan in place. And so I'll return the floor to you, ma'am. And again, I appreciate your service. We need some more answers here because I don't know how many more walkthroughs we need. I understand that it makes communities feel warm and fuzzy, but what is the plan? Thank you very much.
We totally agree. And again, we want you to come and pose that question at the public safety meeting that we're putting on January 18th. We hope to have all of our directors and our leadership there. And we hope that you will come and pose that question. Our office, of course, we attempt to respond to every constituent service, public safety concern. We've been at every incident where there's a shooting. And again, we totally agree with you that what are we going to do as a city to curb the the violence that is going on in our city? So again, I am encouraging all of you all to come out on January 18th, and we're going to pose that question to our leadership, the chief of police, our commander. We're inviting our deputy mayor for public safety. We're inviting OAG. We feel that this has to be a holistic approach, that we're not going to, we're not going to lock people up. That's not going to solve our problem. We have to take a holistic approach to solving this. So please come out on January 18th. Encourage your residents to come out and let their voices be heard.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I don't want it to fall on deaf ears. I mean, Derek Johnson with Mokers brought up an issue that I had raised with everyone as an incoming commissioner before I was even sworn in. So, and then to learn that this fell in between the cracks of the seat. I mean, it's like, just put a floodlight out there and turn it on and let's call it a day and let's see if it works. Let's see if it does something. There's certain permanent measures have to be studied for sure. And I'm not insinuating by any means that we need to repeat what happened during the 90s and early 2000s with stop and frisk or 3 strikes you're out or broken window. None of those things worked, and they created a generation of folks who who grew up seeing family members impacted. And so there was always this level of resentment and hate towards the system. We got to break away from that, but we got to just start doing something. And I mean, to me, it's absolutely insane that the day after someone lost their life on Kennedy Street in the district that I represent, the same folks are back out there. I mean, come on.
Right.
Like literally, you don't have to, I'll say it again, you do not have to just fall off the turnip truck to understand what's going on. You can literally be on the E4, headed westbound towards 16th Street, stopped at the light, and all you have to do is look to the left at the corner store, and within 5 to 15 seconds, you understand exactly what's going on in front of that store, which, by the way, has 12 bullets lodged in the facade. So anyways, I'm getting excited, and I appreciate you listening. I'm very looking forward to hearing what the plan is, and thank you.
Before I turn over to Commissioner Cornelius, Ms. Rogers, just to follow up on one thing. So, I understand that the council member is hosting this public safety meeting to talk to MPD and to the deputy mayor for public safety. But if the council member herself has a plan that she wants to share with us about her ideas for addressing public safety, we would be very happy to hear those ideas from her. So, I mean, it's great that she wants us to give feedback to MPD, but we would also be interested in hearing what her ideas are for this. So again, not to put you on the spot, but if she at some point wants to share that with us, I think we'd be very interested in hearing that. So Commissioner Cornelius. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Ping, are you trying to say something?
Yeah, yeah, we'd like to hear from her in January. Yeah, at the January meeting. That would be
Sounds
really
good.
cool.
We can follow up with you, Ms. Rogers, to see if we can schedule the time to see if that's possible for her to come and
Sure.
if not, if she's not available to come personally, if she can share those ideas through you, again, we'd be very happy to hear and interested to hear what her ideas are for proactively addressing safety in our community, because as Commissioner Lucarelli noted, it is it is a major concern for our neighborhood and seems to be getting worse rather than better. So Commissioner Corniotis?
Yes, on that note, I just want to also say to Ms. Rogers, happy holidays, but I believe our meeting takes place the day before the public safety meeting, and so maybe it could be a test run for the council member to come to our meeting and explain sort of the plan or her vision of the plan. My questions are revolve around sort of the dynamics and expectations, not only in our single member district, but also throughout the city. Now, as a council, as the mayor, all of these new developments are being built. All of the, Jennifer's very passionate about that. All of these row homes are being renovated. Typically young couples are paying much more than I did to purchase these homes. So they're moving here to these areas with certain expectations. And if we plan or are, really passionate about keeping new residents or newer residents in the district, then I think the public safety crime issue has to get under control. Otherwise, no one will want, there will be much less interest in moving to the city. On that note, we know as not only as commissioners, but also as residents of the city, that the dynamic between the mayor and the council around public safety is quite misaligned, to say the least. And I remember when council member Louis George was running against yes, I know that, Commissioner Lucarelli. Anyway, when she was running against Brandon Todd initially, she sort of ran on this idea that increasing policing would not solve anything, etc. It has to be a multifaceted approach. But I tend to recall that when Commissioner Todd was in Council Member Louis George's position, I don't recall us having these crime safety issues in this neighborhood. And I've been here over 10 years now. So does the council member, and I think I asked you this question very early on in my tenure, does the council member have a plan when it comes to working with the mayor? And because it seems as though only council member Brooke Pinto is always sort of, advocating for, the Act Now legislation, etc. So is there some expectation that that this dynamic between the council and the mayor will be not necessarily resolved, but put in the, on the back burner for the, security of and the livelihood of our residents in the city?
I will say, and again, I don't want to speak for the council member, but I think every council member and the mayor, we are all concerned about public safety. And I think in the end, we will all do what is best to bring safety, whether you're a new resident, whether you've lived here 30 years, 50 years. We all want to be able to live safely in our homes. I think it's a great idea. I am going to take this back to get the council member to come to your next meeting, which will be the day before our public safety meeting. I will have her there. We can, we can talk about what answers you all want from her when she attends this meeting. I think it's a great idea, and I'm sure she would be happy to do that. As long as there is not a legislative meeting, which we know sometimes legislative meetings can go into the night, but I am sure if she's not in a legislative meeting, she is happy to come to your next meeting.
That would be great, Ms. Rogers. We very much appreciate that. So we can follow up with you to try to coordinate that, but that would
And
be
my,
fantastic.
sorry, Chair. Yes, thank you. My final question is, and I think Commissioner Morensic may bring this up as well. We were in attendance at the mayor's initial public, and also Commissioner Weigel. We were in attendance at the mayor's public safety walk back in February of this year. And we were told in real time that there would be an after action report of this public safety walk. That after action report, for whatever reason, has not been made public to the community. And it's, almost a year later at this point. So after this January 18th meeting takes place, how will we know that accountability for the recommendations or follow-on actions will be actually implemented or acted upon when, you can have all of these meetings, but if change isn't made or implemented, what's the point of having all these meetings? It's similar to Commissioner Pinckney and what she and her residents are dealing with at their apartment complex. Like,
Sure.
Commissioner Pinckney is, we've had DOB there, we've had the council member there, we've had there, Moker Johnson there. And, poor Commissioner Pinckney, and I'm very passionate about this because we are a family at this point, is in the hospital now with double pneumonia because no one is saying, oh, I'm responsible for getting rid of the rats and the feces in this building that houses several senior citizens of this city.
Right. I totally agree. And again, the council member was there at Miss Pinckney's residence. And I will say she was very disturbed and she is looking into legislation to change that so that agencies are not to blame each other. Like, no, I'm not responsible for that. I'm not responsible for that. So I will say, look forward to some legislation that the council member is trying to put forth so that no other resident has to go through what Commissioner Pinckney, along with the other residents there, have gone through probably the last 6 months. So yeah, the information will be forthcoming, but the council member just feels that if no agency is going to take responsibility, that we have to put forth some legislation to make the change. So.
Thank you. Commissioner Morensic.
Hi, just very, very briefly, and it can just be yes or no. Has the councilwoman come out with a statement that says she is for the Act Now mayor's plan on crime? Because I looked at online and I didn't see anything that actively said that she was promoting it, or I just saw in her newsletter that it came out. But is she taking a stance at this point, or is she still waiting to review it and see what comes out legislatively?
Okay, so the council member participated in the month's hearing on the Act Now DC and asked several rounds of questions of government witnesses. There are provisions of this bill she supports, and there are other provisions that she is still assessing. We expect the bill to come up for a vote in early January. And lastly, as part of the family, there are several things that the council member wants to see. There is, she wants to make sure that the crime lab is accredited, which we won't find out until January. But again, there are some parts of it that she definitely supports, and then there's several other parts that she is actually still reassessing. And again, that is definitely a question you all can put to her when she comes to your meeting on January 17th.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers.
Sure.
Mr. Johnson, you wanted to piggyback on some of this?
Yeah, yes, just briefly, Commissioner CC has steadfastly been asking for the after action report. And that is the report from the March walk through on Georgia and Petworth to Petworth Library off of Georgia Avenue. What I found out, and I didn't previously know, this is actually a document that I as a MOCRA produced. And so we have it, it's just not been uploaded. This is actually going to be the website. I'll follow back up with my director to get that uploaded. It's just literally at every point, and what you'll see is the pictures, the updates from when we stopped at each point and said, hey, there's something on here at the 7-Eleven. We noted it, took a picture, documented what we did, and then created a 311 service request. So that's what the after action report it really is. It comprises each point in the stop of the walk and what we documented and what that update was from the date 0 to 120 days out. Prior to today, I had thought that this report was not something that went live, and that's what the information that I had at a previous direction under a previous director. However, I do note the website does have previous walks, and so I'll work to get this Georgia Avenue walk that happened up there as soon as possible. So thank you. And just to note, there was no trying to be transparent or lack of transparency on the mayor's behalf. It's literally a report that I needed to produce and have produced. It's just not live. So I wanted to make clarity on that.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Appreciate it.
And Chair, if I could make just one more quick announcement.
Sure.
The council recently had its hearing on the whole government response to Crime Act. This legislation focuses on recertifying DC's Trouble Crime Lab, improving performance at our 911 call center, requiring DC to track performance metrics for violence prevention programs, and increasing coordination across agencies to prevent crime and gun violence. And the council member wants to thank every Ward 4 resident who showed up to testify. The council has now had hearings on multiple public safety bills to address crime. It is now up to the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety to mark up this bill based on the public input it received and bring them before the full council for a vote. And we expect this to happen in early January.
Thank you, Ms. Rogers. All right, moving along with our agenda. Next up, we have Marta Bar and Lounge. Commissioner Corniotis, are there any updates for this? Or should we punt it till January?
No, just a quick update. Sorry about that. I was running. Basically, we've been in constant, and I want to say thank you to Commissioners Parati, our chair, and especially Commissioner George. We've been in consistent contact with the resident that lives above Marte Bar. We've also attended a meeting between the parties and also with ABCA in attendance. And, you know, basically the business, Marte Bar, has moved or made some accommodations to decrease the noise and reverberations that occur in the resident's apartment. But at this point, we have a roll call hearing with ABCA in early January, and the resident has said within the past 2 weeks since we had a meeting with APCA that the noise and reverberations have decreased, but she's fearful that that's not going to continue. So that's my update for now. But as I said, I'm in pretty much daily contact with the resident at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. And just to clarify, the roll call hearing is scheduled for January 2nd, I believe. Commissioner Cornelius, are you representing us at that roll call hearing?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, just want to make sure that one of us is there. Okay, next up, we have new business. We have Sherman Circle and a draft resolution about SNAP funding. So Commissioner George, would you like to start us off with Sherman Circle?
Sure, I'm happy to. Commissioner Lucarelli, is there a way of me sharing my screen? Did you
Yeah, I'll
reclaim
make you the
Alistair's?
host. I'll make you the host.
Perfect. Perfect. Okay, oh, that's not it. Are you not showing the? Oh, can you see the slides? The Sherman Circle traffic survey slides? Is that what you guys see?
Now we're talking.
Perfect. All right. So let me flip through the survey that we did about Sherman Circle. So the background, many folks know that Sherman Circle is a 2-lane circle. It currently has a mostly unprotected bike lane, no speed bumps or raised crosswalks, but it's heavily used by pedestrians, cars, buses, and cyclists in our neighborhood. I have a 3-year-old who spends a lot of time playing in Sherman Circle with a lot of his young friends. I wanted to kind of get the sense of the neighborhood about traffic safety in Sherman Circle for a couple of different reasons. In October, there was a cyclist who was hit right in front of my house by a careless driver in Sherman Circle. Driver kind of pulled into the circle going too fast to stop for a cyclist that was already in the circle. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries. The second is, as many folks know, DDOT has been engaging heavily on potential safety improvements at Grant Circle, which may make it timely to kind of think about these two circles together. And indeed, there was a cyclist, I believe, a mother biking to pick up her kids, hit in Grant Circle this afternoon. So we opened up a survey about traffic safety, potential traffic safety improvements in Sherman Circle, distributed it in a number of different places, asking for feedback on potential raised crosswalks at the intersections leading into the circle, raised crosswalks within the circle, narrowing Sherman Circle to 1 lane, or leaving Sherman Circle as is. I was really gratified to see that we got almost 300 responses, the vast majority of whom live in Ward 4. And as I walk through some of these responses, just to note, I'm going to highlight the levels of support from the people who reported that they are ANC 4D residents, so residents of our commission area, rather than Ward 4 or the whole city or my specific SMD. But the numbers don't change that much depending on how you look at it. So the changes that we were looking at were potentially raised crosswalks, as in this picture, which kind of are like a speed bump that people can walk over. It helps make pedestrians more visible while also slowing traffic. We could potentially ask for raised crosswalks at the intersections leading into the circle or within the circle itself. We also gauged the possibility of narrowing Sherman Circle to 1 lane. This is a rendering from when DDOT considered this a few years ago. It would kind of create a bike lane, move parking in, and make Sherman Circle 1 lane only of traffic. So here's what we heard back from the 300-ish residents. They're broadly, folks generally support all of the potential approaches. There was a lot of support for any of these, but there was very little support for leaving Sherman Circle as is and not making changes to improve traffic safety. And that's a message that I hope that we can pass on to do that tonight. We got a lot of people in the survey raising concerns about pedestrian safety. Here are some of the quotes that we got, but a lot of people are very worried about high speeds in the circle. The fact that drivers don't stop at stop signs or yield to pedestrians. Some folks talk about how with the circle being 2 lanes, it can make for a scary situation when one car stops for a pedestrian while a car behind them goes around them while there's a pedestrian in the crosswalk. In general, this was only a selection of the comments that we got about pedestrian safety. There were many more, but I couldn't fit them all on the slide, but this was kind of the most significant theme I think that came through in the results. We also, I will note, there are kind of folks on each side of every potential issue here. There are people who would like to see more speed bumps. There are people that say there shouldn't be speed bumps. There are people who would like the idea of reducing Sherman Circle down to 1 lane. There are others who think that that won't help pedestrian safety in the circle. There are some people who think that, you know, whatever we do will be helpful, and there are others who say that we shouldn't be making any more changes to the city. So, you know, I think you'll be able to find individuals who kind of say all of those things, which is why I wanted to share kind of the high level results that we also heard back from the community. Some of the other things that folks raised as possibilities were flashing crosswalks, improving enforcement via things like speed cameras. Some people suggested closing Sherman Circle to cars altogether. And a few people raised a stop sign at Illinois and Buchanan. That is something that I did end up working into the proposed resolution. This whole presentation, I think, is linked in our agenda. Folks can go through and read it if they want. And there are a bunch of additional resources here. If people want to look through the entire survey results, they can. I've written a lot about this issue in my newsletters. And then you can see some of the additional supporting information about what's coming at Grant Circle and some of the studies that DDOT has done in the past. That is me. All right, let me stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may, would you be willing to entertain a discussion amongst the commissioners on this item?
Discussion with commissioners, what? I'm sorry?
On this item?
Yes, of course, it's up for discussion. So you have the floor, Commissioner Lucarelli, unless Commissioner George has anything else that he wants to say before.
That's it. So that I can just give a quick overview of the resolution that we proposed, following up on the survey that we did and kind of what's been going on. But basically, the resolution notes some of the safety issues in Sherman Circle and what the community has told us about their feelings of safety in the circle. Calls upon DDOT to develop a plan to improve traffic safety in Sherman Circle with a particular focus on reducing vehicle speeds and improving pedestrian safety. Calls for DDOT to move quickly enough that they can plan for the redesign of Sherman Circle alongside or shortly after planned improvements at Grant Circle. Encourages DDOT to use any and all of the traffic calming tools in its toolkit. Calls upon DDOT to install a 4-way stop sign at Illinois and Buchanan. And asks DDOT to keep ANC 4D appraised of its progress while they develop a plan for improving traffic safety in the circle.
Thank you, Commissioner George. And just so everyone knows, Commissioner Pinckney had to drop out of the meeting, so she will be abstaining on any votes that we have this evening. So Commissioner Lucarelli, you have the floor, sir.
Hey, Commissioner George, thank you. I appreciate this presentation. I just want to caution about something that I had brought up before. I don't remember if it was either within a executive or formal public meeting setting, but you know, as the local transportation planner on this commission, I just want to advise you that you know we should also deem other options as, or I think we need to add language that says or other options to the satisfaction of the director of DDOT. Because a raised crosswalk is good, but I'm going to share my screen and just show some topo elevations here. These are two spot contour elevations. And so again, raised crosswalks are great, but the streets in DC use a 6-inch raised granite curb, and that's to carry the water that flows off of the street and into the storm sewer. And so because the curbs are designed to carry water, we have to acknowledge that raised crosswalks or such treatments similar are only good in certain areas. And so can you see my screen right now? It shows contour elevations. It looks like squiggly lines.
Yes.
Okay. So if we check out the elevation at Plan Northwest, we're at 2018. And then we see it's climbing to 2020. And then we're seeing it's climbing to 2022. So the water is flowing down Illinois, but then it's hitting a point. And so you could engineer a raised crosswalk in this area, but you would have to design what is essentially a trench drain, and those require maintenance. You literally have to either take a suction device or someone has to come out and clear it like a chimney flue. And so that presents challenges. And so if DDOT isn't maintaining that trench drain, then it will get clogged and then you have localized flooding around the circle. So I think that and I would also caution against closing Sherman Circle to vehicular traffic. There's a bus that runs along that circle. And so we would essentially be asking WMATA to realign that bus route. And I don't think they would even be willing to entertain something like that. I mean, these routes are preset based on ridership projections and formulaic models. So those are just my two suggestions. I would discourage any discussion of eliminating it to car traffic, and then I would also add that phrase or other options to the satisfaction of the director of DDOT.
Can I just very clear, but what the resolution says is that it encourages DDOT to consider using any and all of the traffic calming tools in its toolkit, including vertical traffic calming and road diets to achieve the goals of reduce vehicle speeds and increase pedestrian safety. It does not tell them to use raised crosswalks. It does not tell them to close Sherman Circle to traffic.
Okay, well then I was just giving that then as an educational bit to everyone here, because yes, they're a great traffic calming tool, but we have to be cognizant of where we put them. And I would just also add that this circle only has about 7,000 vehicles a day, and so the Institute of Transportation, the ITE states that a road of one lane, you can handle that with one lane. You can actually handle up to 25,000 cars per day on a one-lane street. So this street is way oversized. It needs to go on a diet. And I would encourage the city to do it so that no other person has to be injured, maimed, or lose their life simply using it to get from A to B. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cornelius.
On that note, I am mostly in support of this this resolution, but you know, I appreciate and respect Commissioner Lucarelli's data of you know, the number of cars that travel every day, etc. I just want to, you know, as I'm pretty consistent about this. I think this conversation always seems to be focused on, you know, bikers or pedestrians versus drivers, and I think we would benefit from redirecting the conversation away. And also, I think that, you know, saying, oh, we're going to minimize or decrease or put the Sherman Circle on a diet because it's too wide. I live very close to Sherman Circle. My daughter has health needs with her heart. If a car or a you know, ambulance cannot get to Children's Hospital, and my daughter, God forbid, you can shake your head all you want, but this is a real situation. I don't want anyone getting hit by a car. I don't want anyone.
It would never happen. It would never happen, though. I don't mean to be argumentative, but it would never happen because they would design.
Commissioner Lucarelli, could you just let Commissioner Cornelius finish, and then we can turn the floor over to you.
And then finally, you know, I'm also on the Cleveland Park listserv, where Cleveland Park, essentially, the businesses have been negatively affected to a great degree because the parking, because of the designated walking lanes and bike lanes, has literally shut most of those businesses down in Cleveland Park. And so I responded to a string today, and several residents wrote back to me directly saying, thank you for your voice, because we feel like, you know, a minority of people are obsessed with public, you know, traffic safety, etc. And, the majority of the city was, in their minds, Connecticut Avenue specifically has been negatively affected by the traffic safety calming measures that have been taking place, to date. I understand our neighborhood, our community is very different than Connecticut Avenue. But like I said, I think, we just need to respect, each of our opinions on this. And I'm not anti-bike, I'm not anti-exercise, I'm not anti-anything. But when I'm dropping off my daughter and I just want to, open my door and I don't, there's a blind spot. So I gently open the door and then a biker yells at me and swears at me because, I should be mindful of them. I want them to respect me as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Lucarelli, did you have something you wanted to say?
I would just, again, as a transportation professional, I just want to remind the commission and the gentlelady, Corniotis, as well as those in the public, that all of those things are taken into consideration. There is a very thorough analysis when you are planning out what is commonly referred to as a road diet. Because widening streets to solve traffic is like punching a new hole in your belt and just saying, well, we'll just accept it. It doesn't work. And no city has ever resolved traffic and safety issues by adding capacity, meaning adding roadway for cars. Again, the data speaks for itself. These are international standards that are applied to all streets, and particularly those here in DC. And so again, the data says that it can go down to one lane. And so there are no alternative facts. The facts speak for themselves, and there's roads all across DC as well as this nation that are one lane that have the amount of traffic that this circle does. And so that's why it's overly generous. The circle is wide because the trolley used to go around it. And so that right of way was needed for those trolleys to take up the room that they did, and they moved a lot more people per mile than a single occupied vehicle does. And so I just want to remind everyone again that they would not design this road so that emergency vehicle couldn't get through. They would use some sort of mountable curb device, or the lane would be wide enough. A cycle track is recommended for 12 feet in width with a preferred 3 feet buffer on the outer edge. And so that's more than wide enough for a fire truck or any sort of emergency vehicle apparatus to travel down it. And that's why they design, and that's why cycle tracks are preferable. I'm not sure if that's here for the specific design, but anyways, there's plenty of room here. And so
And
Just
just
to
so we just
follow
don't
up on
get,
that-
just hold on one second,
Yeah,
Commissioner Gordon, just so we
sorry.
just don't get derailed on the conversation. We're not advocating for any specific design recommendations, right? And we are just simply saying to DOT, we think that there are issues with Sherman Circle. We encourage you to investigate it and come up with ideas, but we're not endorsing this. This resolution is not to endorse a particular design one way or the other. Commissioner Corniotis, if you want to respond, then Commissioner George.
Yeah, just very quickly. And one final point was that, I'm friends with several seniors in the neighborhood who attend the 4D mini commission meetings. And, in the last 4D mini commission meeting, there were a lot of these seniors who are interested, if these changes and traffic calming measures are put in place, that they would argue, or not argue, but advocate for bikers and motorcyclists, etc. Well, motorcyclists are licensed, but the bikers be insured and follow lights and stop signs as cars do. And they have a knowledge and history, because they've lived in this city for decades, when bikes in DC all used to have to be registered, which is not the case currently.
Thank you, Commissioner George.
Yep, I would just encourage us to also take note of the fact that hundreds of residents did tell us that they have real concerns about traffic safety in Sherman Circle, and I think it is a good thing for us to listen to them and convey those concerns to DDOT and let DDOT know that it's a priority for our community to improve traffic safety in Sherman Circle, where there is a lot of pedestrian traffic.
Thank you. Commissioner Karancic.
I move that we move the previous question.
Yes, we'll vote on this and we will vote on it with the other resolutions. So can we close out discussion for this item and move on to the
I
next
think
one?
we need a second and a vote on closing the debate on this one.
A second.
All those in favor of closing debate?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you all. Commissioner George, you've got the next one too.
Yep, this one is very simple. I won't spend too much time on it in detail, but as we heard some discussion of earlier in the meeting, the city council passed a law that would have required about $40 million in funding to go towards expanding SNAP benefits for families. It starting early next year. Using legal authority that is unclear, the mayor has asserted the right to reprogram that funding. We have drafted a resolution calling for that funding to be recommitted to SNAP benefits as required by law.
Thank you, Commissioner. Questions or comments from any of the commissioners?
No, I think this one is pretty straightforward and should have, unanimous support.
I had
Excellent.
one.
We've got one comment from Commissioner Weigel.
I just want to openly say thank you to Commissioner George for raising this and making it public and putting it on the record.
Sure, glad to do it. I also wanted to note that we had a lot of commissioners express interest in being recognized as potential points of contact for our commission on this one. I know Commissioner Pinckney had kind of gone back and forth. Commissioner Abell had Commissioner Weigel and Commissioner Konianis as well. I'm happy to add all of us to the resolution if everybody's on board. That's everybody I mentioned, or if anybody else wants to too, I'm happy to.
All right, thank you, sir. We will move on then. Next, we will open up the forum for community comments. So members of the community, this is your opportunity to weigh in on any of the items that we've discussed tonight. Please use the raise hand function, and we ask you to try to limit your comments to about 2 minutes or so per person so that we can move along. And any questions or comments from anyone in the community tonight? Hearing none, but Commissioner Lucarelli reminded me that we have to vote on or discuss his resolution. So Commissioner Lucarelli, we'll turn it back over to you, sir, to introduce your resolution on crime.
Yeah, sure. Let me be very quick here. Yes, so earlier this week, regrettably, another individual lost their life in 4003 in broad daylight. This time at Kennedy, on or around Kennedy in Illinois, Kennedy in Georgia, which is a known hotspot. We've talked about it ad nauseum, so I will spare everyone that. And so I just have the chair and the secretary reminded me that they sent forth some edits, correct?
Yes, we raised a question,
questions.
Commissioner Lucarelli. Sorry, Commissioner George. The specifics of what you were proposing, which was to encourage the city council to designate certain areas as drug-free zones. My understanding is that this is one of the things that the city council has yet to vote on. This is part of the Act Now resolution. So my suggestion was that perhaps we wait to vote on this until after the city council has voted on it, because I don't know if there's anything that they can actually act on at this point in time regarding drug-free zones.
Mr. Johnson, do you want to clarify that? Because I thought when we spoke on the phone, you mentioned that this was a regulatory avenue that we could pursue, or was I mistaken?
No, I sent you a follow-up text just to note that it hadn't been voted on as of yet, but the city council still does have the ability to vote on it. Support it, that is.
Okay. All right. So there hasn't been any emergency legislation or something otherwise that would allow them to designate these zones at this time?
No, but what we do know is that illicit activity in public space is still against the law. So in that regard, it couldn't be called a 120-hour drug-free zone, but in reality, that behavior activity that you know that you could see on the bus, if being sought or seen by police in real time as well, they could still conduct investigations to stop that activity without it being contrary to the no loitering laws.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. All right. So I guess it just is a matter of like some internal discussion. Then, Amon and Mr. Chair, would you still feel comfortable, given the Mokers reps clarification to consider this in January? I'm kind of
Yeah,
ambivalent.
so are you proposing to postpone till January then?
I mean, I'm ambivalent. Not that I want to keep it here any longer, but I will be curious to hear what other commissioners have to think on it. I mean, I shouldn't say I'm ambivalent. I would like to send I would like for the city's response to be as swift and just as ours. And so I'm curious to hear what other folks have to say. If someone needs to mute themselves again. If no one says anything, then I entertain a motion to defer it, but thank you.
Commissioner Bell?
Sure. Sorry, who is that? If somebody could
Yeah,
mute.
Ms. Ferguson, are you able to mute yourself? Or can the host mute Ms. Ferguson? Thank you. Commissioner Bell?
Yeah, I know right now we might not be voting on this, but I did want to speak on what I my understanding of this. This is, would be one of the areas identified here is in my SMB. It's literally a block away from where I live. What I understand of drug-free zones um, is that they are often not effective. They don't do what you intend them to do. And on top of that, that they have negative consequences. Oftentimes, for example, consider what 4D is and the demographics of 4D and where people of color are located and reside um and and what designating certain blocks and intersections as drug-free zones would do. It would have, I mean, this has been documented in research that designating certain neighborhoods as drug-free zones creates basically more enforcement on certain people. And this would have that effect, I believe. Designating certain neighborhoods in 4D as drug-free zones, besides the fact that it won't work, will have these negative consequences that we have not, the unintended consequences. I understand public safety is an issue that we need to address, and it is an issue specifically in these intersections identified, but I do not believe that drug-free zones are going to be the solution. I know we may not be voting on this, but I, at this time, could not support a resolution like this. And on top of that, I also don't know if it's appropriate for us to vote for a piece of what Act Now would be, right? So we should, I mean, consider voting on, you know, uh, a resolution, which I would not support it as well. But if we're going to take just one piece of it, and then not only just not approve that one piece of that now, but like the consequences of it, preempting that we are calling for something. So for these reasons, for the technical reason, and the fact that drug-free zones don't seem to work and have been demonstrated to have unintended consequences that are negative, actually, do not support this, and I discourage us from passing such a resolution, and would be speaking against if this zone would be created in my SMD, because I think it would have not only an effect on my residents, but me personally, as a Black person living in this neighborhood.
Mr. Chair,
Thank you,
if I may,
Commissioner. We'll get to you, Commissioner Lucarelli. Commissioner George has had his hand raised.
Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly, I would be in favor of postponing debate on this sort of resolution until next month. Especially as of right now, it calls on the council to designate a drug-free zone. I think that the way the bill is written is that the bill would empower MPD to designate drug-free zones. And that bill also has not passed yet, so I think just the tool doesn't quite exist the way that the resolution envisions right now. And then also, I think to Mr.
I
Johnson's
second.
to Mr. Johnson's point, it is currently illegal to deal drugs out in the open in DC. And I think we can, potentially engage with MPD more on safety at these corners without necessarily calling for a drug-free zone or something like that.
So the motion is on the floor to postpone until next month. All commissioners in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
So the motion is tabled until January. So Commissioner Lucarelli, we can reconvene in our next executive meeting and talk about how you'd like to proceed. So
well, would it be all right to address the freshman commissioner's comments?
I think probably my suggestion would be that maybe we talk further at our executive meeting. I'm not sure if we're going to resolve the question tonight, especially since the motion has been postponed anyway. And my guess is that this is probably something that requires a good deal of conversation to kind of think through some of these issues. And that would be my suggestion, Commissioner, would be to sort of wait till we have some more time when we can really discuss it in depth.
Okay.
If you're amenable to that.
Yes, I mean, I wanted to clear up some mischaracterizations, but yes, we can do that in the sake of time. Thank you.
Any other motions or business before the commission tonight?
Can I just say one thing, Chair?
Sure, unless you think it would be something that we could address if it's related to the previous
no.
motion at the exec
Yes,
meeting.
it is, but I just want to ask Commissioner Abell that, if he's not in favor of something, in favor of this resolution specifically, can he come to the executive meeting with some alternative ideas? Because, as you've heard throughout this meeting, I don't think, we've discussed race or, those types of very heavy issues, so to speak, this evening. But at the same time, crime in our 4D area is out of
Point of
control.
order.
Yes.
Point
Yes.
of order. We've
First-
already tabled this for next week, so I think we should move on.
Thank you,
I'm
Commissioner.
just
Yeah,
asking, thank you. I'm just asking the freshman commissioner to come prepared for our executive meeting. That's all.
thank you, Commissioner Cornelius. Any other new business before the commission tonight? If not, we will move on to votes. All right, first up, we have approval of the Q4 report. Can I have a second to approve of it?
So moved.
Commissioners, when I call your name, please say aye if you approve the quarterly report. Commissioner Abell?
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Cornelius?
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic?
Aye.
Commissioner George?
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye, which means that the Q4 report is approved. Next up, we have Commissioner George's resolution on traffic safety at Sherman Circle. Can I have a second?
Second.
Commissioners, when I call your name, please say aye if you approve the resolution. Commissioner Abell?
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli?
Aye.
Commissioner Cornelius?
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic?
Aye.
Commissioner George?
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel?
Aye.
And I'm also an aye. So the resolution carries. Next up, we have a resolution regarding SNAP payments for DC residents. Can I have a second for the resolution?
Second.
Second.
Commissioners, when I call your name, please say aye if you approve. Commissioner Abell?
Aye.
Commissioner Lucarelli? Commissioner Cornelius?
Aye.
Commissioner Morensic?
Big time aye.
Commissioner George?
Aye.
Commissioner Weigel?
Big eye.
And I'm also an aye, which means that the motion carries, the resolution is adopted. I believe that's everything on our agenda for tonight, so I will move to adjourn. Can I have a second?
Second,
Second,
All those in favor say aye, or Mr. Johnson, did you have one last?
Yes,
Comment you
I
wanted to
just
make?
wanted to note the official number. Was that all and one abstention for the SNAP benefits vote?
That's correct. It was 7 ayes and 1 abstention.
Okay, thank you.
Can I have a second for adjourning?
aye,
Second.
second.
All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will adjourn for the evening. Thank you all so much. Everyone have a good holiday, and we will see you in person again in January at Latin Charter School. So have a good night, everyone. Take care.
You too.
Good
Thank
night. Happy
you.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Cheers.
Bye.
Good night. Good night.